Hello, everyone. This is William Cunningham of My Hope in Marriage. My Hope in Marriage is about you having a fulfilled and happy marriage. And I provide resources on the website www.myhope.myhopeinmarriage.com. That's www.myhopeinmarriage.com for you to use to forge your own happy and fulfilling marriage. All right? Well, today I want to talk about, let's get right into it. Today I want to talk about something that I think is very, very important. And I think is certain things that are missing or neglected when people consider marriage. And that thing is basically your responsibilities to your spouse. And I'm not talking about who washes the dishes. I'm not talking about who cleans the carpet and stuff like that. You're going to work out those things, those responsibilities. There's going to be someone designated to take out the trash, because that way, wash the dishes or whatever. That way, it's more likely to get done in a timely manner. But at the same time, there are other responsibilities that a lot of people don't consider to be responsibilities, unfortunately. And there's a passage of scripture. Let me first backtrack a little bit. Why do people get married? Let's turn back a little bit. Why do people get married? We talk about responsibilities. Why do people get married? Well, I remember it was a Pew survey that said that noted that most people decide to marry someone because they fell in love. And obviously that is not enough for marriage. I remember my father telling me that love, falling in love with someone is not a good reason to get married. and consequently for me, it had nothing to do with my decision to want to marry my current wife. We've been married for a little over 37 years, okay? And love didn't have anything to do with it. All right? For me, it was the next step, logical step, or it was like the next step in the relationship. We had been dating for like 6 years. We met in college. And that was the next step for me in the relationship. And there were things that I calculated and so forth. There were visions and dreams and so forth that I had. And, you think that's this. I just thought this was the one. But within that, for me, it wasn't love. But for a lot of people, it was love. They don't think about all the things. And even in my case, there are certain things that I overlooked that I probably shouldn't have. It would have probably saved me a lot of grief. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. It would have saved me a lot of things because of expectations that I had that I should not have had. But other than that, you have to realize that you marry someone because of a specific thing. And that specific thing may be sustainable or maybe not. To love someone emotionally takes work. But it takes work from them, because there's a book, I forget who wrote it. It was I believe it was His Needs, Her Needs. I'm not really sure, but in the book, the author described these love banks, okay? And basically it's like in anything else in life. You experience something over a period of time and you'll begin to have a certain outlook for that thing. If it's more negative experiences, you'll have a negative perspective of that thing. If you have more positive experiences, you'll have a more positive outlook or disposition towards that thing. And it's the same thing with relationships with people. If you have negative interactions with people, negative experiences with a particular person, then you're going to tend to be negative. It's like if you're nice to me, then I'll tend to be nice to you type of thing. But if you are having, if you have negative or positive interactions or positive experiences with this particular person, then you're more likely to have a positive perspective of that person. I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? Just because you marry doesn't nullify that basic human nature, trait or whatever you want to call it. The more positive experiences you have with your spouse, the more positively you're going to think of your spouse. You're going to perceive your spouse. If you have more negative experiences, then eventually you're going to start having negative feelings towards your spouse. So that's why I say love takes work on both parts. If I'm working to meet the needs of my spouse, my wife, and she's not doing it to me, then you're going to end up with a lopsided relationship where I'm meeting her needs, I'm catering to her, I'm helping her, I'm doing for her, I'm, quote, loving her. But if I don't get that back, then I'm going to start feeling negatively towards her. You see them? You see how that works? So that love will fade. That emotional, part of the relationship is going to fade, and that love, that emotional love, is going to fade, and that's going to come out in your activities. However, you promised in your vows, if you did anything near the traditional, to love and to cherish. You promised to do that. And that's not something that you just expect just to happen. You have to work at it. You have to work together at it. The two become one. You have to work at that. All right. And a big part of that in a marriage relationship, of course, you have love, emotional, romantic love. And of course, you have sex between the husband and a wife. Of course. And I would dare say that people who get married, I would say most, if not all, expect to have sex with their spouse regularly. Why? Because especially for the guy, that's the way that a guy emotionally connects and with his wife. And that's the way the wife can also emotionally connect with her husband, even though she tend to want emotional connection first. All right. But anyway, those are not things that just happen on their own. You have to work at it. It has to be something that you are committed to work at, committed to do. All right. And regarding sex, this is the thing that really gets me, because it's amazing how we select certain things in our lives to operate one way, but here we don't operate that way. And let me explain. In the Bible, the Apostle Paul describes our responsibility to each other, that is husband and wife, regarding sex. All right. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, he says, look, don't deprive what's due. Don't deprive. He says, for example, in verse 3, let the husbands render to his wife the affections due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. You have to render that. It's a responsibility. All right. And it also says the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband does not have authority over her own body, but the wife does. But so often you hear how one deprives the other of this intimacy, this sexual intimacy, this romantic intimacy. All right. And they're breaking their responsibility in marriage. If you're going to have a marriage where you're going to be devoid of sex, you have a sexless marriage, then it's like, why get married? I mean, if you're going to be roommates, be roommates. All right. Because then you get into sexual immorality, as Paul describes in there, because sex is supposed to be, God designed it between a married couple. All right. My point is that sex is a responsibility to the husband and to the wife. It is your responsibility. Love is a responsibility to your husband and for the husbands to your wives. It's your responsibility to keep that going. Otherwise, you end up being a stumbling block for your spouse. A wife who rejects her husband sexually is sending her husband out into the world, all right, with all the temptations, and she's making a stumbling block for him. All right. And I've seen online, which was incredible to me, how some women say, there's just one woman that I saw as a video, and she said, after a good day's work, she comes home and her main thought is how to please her husband. And I'm thinking, wow, wow, that's amazing. And you see other women like that. So all women aren't like, we don't need a man and all that kind of stuff. Some women get it. Some women are enlightened and realize that, hey, I got to meet the needs of my husband. Guys are already programmed. We already know from youth that when we succeed in our occupation, our business, or whatever, that we are succeeding for our family, for our wife and kids, mostly for the wife. We know already that it's like that. Men don't think of it as my money. It's our money. All right. Now, of course, today, in these days, that's changing because of the dynamics between men and women. And that's unfortunate. But you have to realize that you have a responsibility to your spouse to love them romantically, as well as being committed to the relationship. There are two types of love. One is the romantic love and one is a commitment love. If you would get the ebook, What Happens to Love and Marriage, I describe that in detail. Okay? So it's your responsibility. And you might say, well, I don't feel like it. I'm not in the mood. It doesn't matter. So what? I remember Miles Monroe gave a men's conference at the church I was attending. This was way back in the 1990s. And he said, basically, sometimes you have to do not what you feel like doing, but what's necessary, what's good for the relationship. All right. So you can't just say, well, I'm not in the mood. And sometimes you really, really don't feel like it. And you do have to have that type of understanding. But you don't want that to be the norm. You have a responsibility to your spouse. It's best to meet the needs of your spouse and not to put unreasonable demands on your spouse, of course. But you have to try. You do it in everything else. You do it with everything else that you do, that you're involved in. You go to work. Maybe you don't want to go to work today, but you're responsible. There's a meeting, you have to do this or that. So you go. You want a paycheck. All right. But when it comes to marriage, we tend to think that, she's going to understand, or we just feel that we can get away with it. We can get away with not being responsible to our spouse. We can get away with not loving our spouse the way we should. And there are consequences if you do that. If you don't love your spouse the way you should, the way you promised, the way that is right, then there are consequences because they're going to start feeling neglected. Then animosity, resentment, and so forth will start to grow, and that's going to damage the relationship, and it's going to erode the relationship over a period of time until that emotional, romantic love component is dead. A dead bedroom is a good indication of the aura, the vibe of the marriage. Because without that, you become roommates. You become roommates. And nobody gets married to be a roommate. All right? You're hoping that this wife would sustain you, satisfy you. I hear a phrase, I don't know if I should say it here. I'm not. But women say they're going to, let's just say they're going to empty her husband. Before he goes out into the world, she's going to empty him, if you know what I mean. And that's a good thing that she's thinking that way. It's not like what she feels like, it's what she knows is best for him. She removes that stumbling block from him. She removes it because he knows that his wife is taking care of him. All right. And she needs to know that her husband is taking care of her. And the best way to get that really solidified is to communicate. You have to talk to each other. You have to tell each other what's on your mind, what's bothering you, what you like or whatever. All right. You can't keep things silent and then let the relationship erode, because once it starts eroding, pride may get in and keep you from admitting your blunder and making it right. So it's very, very important that you remember your responsibilities in marriage. One, sexually to your spouse, another to love your spouse, and of course you have to speak their love language. You have the physical touch, you have the words of affirmation, acts of service, you have acts of, I always forget, acts of service, you have quality time, all right, and you have gift giving. And you just learn the way your spouse receives love. You have to get on her or his frequency, so to speak, all right, on his wavelength, and so that he can receive it. But if you communicate it, you can get rid of some of the misunderstandings that may occur. Because I don't think you love me. What do you mean? I love you. Well, you never do such and such. What are you talking about? All right. So you got to know your spouse's love language and speak it. All right. You have to have positive experiences with each other, or else you'll start having negative experiences, and that'll reflect itself in the relationship and how you interact with each other and how you feel about each other. That's really, really important. Okay. And just like you do with everything else in life, we don't govern our lives on basically just how we feel. We do things because we know it's necessary to get done. We know it's good for the whatever it is. We know what's right for that situation. So in your marriage, you have to do what's right for the situation, which is, first of all, meet your responsibilities. All right. And meet your responsibilities to your spouse. I'm not talking about meet your responsibilities like paying the mortgage, paying the bills, making sure the kids go out. Meet your responsibilities to your spouse. All right. What does she want? You married her. You married him. You married her. What does he want? What does she want? What can I do to make her, quote, happy? What can I do to have pleasant experiences? What can I do to help her or to help him, right? As far as dealing with a situation, maybe she had a bad day at work. How can I help her feel better? How can I help her get over that? Or how can I help him get over that? All right. So you really got to keep in mind your responsibilities and learn about marriage. A lot of people, like I said, they get married because they fell in love, and that's not enough to sustain a marriage. And you won't know that unless you learn about marriage. All right. That's why I started studying marriage, because I wanted to know it so I can do it. Like anything else you do. You get involved in something, you got to learn it, and you do it. Why should marriage be any different? All right. So I just want to bring that out, that, and I'll probably have another part to this, because we have the consequences of not doing that, not meeting the responsibilities in your marriage. What are the consequences? Like, I have one video that is very popular called "The Consequences of Wives Rejecting Their Husbands." That's a big one. If you haven't seen that one, I would check that out. And I also have an article of the same name on the website, so check that out. All right. Oh, I just want to bring that up to you. I want you to be mindful of that, your responsibility in your marriage to your spouse, and meet those responsibilities. And you can better forge ahead into a happy and fulfilling marriage, because at the very least, your relationship could be strong. All right. And we can get through adversities much better than having to feel ill about your spouse when hardships are come, or when certain things, challenges not necessarily hardships, but that too, but when challenges arise, at least you feel good about each other and you can go through it together. But if you're just roommates, man, you're just going to do separate things. You're going to go off and do separate things, not only with challenges or adversities, but just in normal everyday life. And that's unfortunate because in marriage, the two should be one flesh. Not that you won't have some alone time, but you're going to be acting as one unit, as one, like a team that acts, everybody, it's like you all together. All right. Well, okay. I didn't want this to get too long. So that's just my message. Meet your responsibilities in your marriage. You do your part, and hopefully your spouse will do their part. Let them read, let them watch this video. Okay. And I'll see if I might put the links to the books that I mentioned in the description. You know, you have the His Needs, Her Needs, and the other one was the 5 love languages. All right. Okay. Well, I hope this has been helpful to you. If you're watching this on YouTube, then please just, like it, help and like it and tell others about it. Send it to others so that they can watch it if you think this is good stuff. I'd appreciate that. All right. And visit the website because I have articles, even though I haven't written an article in a while because I've been concentrating on videos. All right. But I'm going to get back to doing that. And all right. So God bless you. And until the next time, you know what? Be blessed.